the OGs are way more in shape musically than the young guys.
Yeah.
Way more. Like, we need like a little bit of Suge Knight energy in the music game.
People need to be smacked up a little bit, and I'm not even being funny about that.
MEC family, what's going down? We are back on the MEC podcast. I am the man in the red hoodie. The woman in the blue hat is here. The guy that kind of looks like me in the black is also here. These are the words people tend to use for us, the descriptors when they're commenting. I don't know if our titles are showing up anymore, but my name is DJ Payne 1. I'm a multi-platinum producer. That's Erinn Knight. She's a music business manager and event producer and a whole bunch of other things, branding consultant, etc. Damien Ritter is the guy that threw a shake weight at Hobson many years ago and went viral on Vlad TV for doing so. Sorry, Dame, do you want a better description? I feel like you're the one guy that people know from this lineup.
I don't know, but I currently am the marketing director for Too Lost, and I still manage artists, no music artists, but I work with Big Ja, and super excited about both of those things. But before we get started, this episode is brought to you by Too Lost. As you can see, I'm in my office right now. If you want 3 months free music distribution, just use the code MEC, get all your music up there, and hopefully you continue rocking with us even after 3 months.
But it's cheap. I just want to point this out because, yes, it's free for 3 months. You could just cancel it after 3 months and your music would stay on all the platforms. Cool. But otherwise, it's like $1.70 something a month if you pay for the yearly. And I don't know why you wouldn't, because that's, I don't know, it's really inexpensive. In a time when everything's expensive, music distribution isn't.
No inflation with music distribution. I feel like it's only getting cheaper. So no reason not to get all your music up on the DSPs. But before we jump into this, we gotta go into our wins. I know Erinn has had a ton of wins. I've been following her posts. She's in Texas, so we got to kick it off with Erinn so she can outshine our wins probably this week. Let's go. What you got, Erinn?
My voice is still waning because of one of my wins, but on Sunday we had the third edition of our monthly event series with my company here in Austin. Where y'all at, though? It's a community technology company. The third edition was massive. We have a new brand partnership, so we were able to make all the tickets free, and we had double the attendance that we expected. The venue was super satisfied because they had doubled their staff because I made a post saying how many RSVPs we had. But I was like, hey, don't double your staff. We don't know if these people are going to show up. And we had like 70 to 80% of our RSVPs show up, which is amazing for a free show. Plus, like over 100 people bought tickets at the door. So that was really, really cool. And then last minute yesterday, we got invited to, or a couple days before we got invited to be on the news. So we were on CBS Austin. They have a We Are Austin segment, which is like what's happening locally. What should we be supporting? And so they covered Where Y'all At, though, my comtech company there. And then it was really cool for me this morning. The newscaster DM'd us and was like, hey, we have a ton of organizations on our platform every single week, and y'all are probably the most concise people to speak about what y'all are offering, and you're really offering something that the city needs. So thank you so much for being here, but thank you for being present enough and aware enough to talk about your brand well. So I was like, wow, that was super cool for me. So good week, great events, really grateful. I'm headed back to Nashville for about a week, and then I'll be back out here for South by for like 2.5 weeks.
I'm nominating you to do a special session of the MEC just solo to talk about Where Y'all At, though, and how you guys are building and putting the pieces together. So whether you want me to interview you or whether you just want to talk directly to the camera and break it all down, feel free. Let me know if you're interested, number one, in which route you want to take. But Payne, what you got for it? I know she kind of just set us up to look like we ain't doing shit, but what you got for us this week?
I made that look. No, sorry. I was reading a tweet about Trump doing some stupid, disgusting, genocidal shit.
No, I'm saying, I was just saying, Erin's over here on the news doing big things, you know, so the goal is not to compete with each other, I know, but she probably should have went last. So, Payne, what you got for us?
Oh, I bought a fleet of luxury vehicles, and now I survived another double booking. It was a rough night, but did book more shows. So my spring schedule for events, which a lot of people don't know about, because I focus more on music production, not so much DJing when it comes to social media, because I feel like DJing is a little more self-explanatory. But yeah, that schedule is getting pretty booked up, which is a good feeling.
Nice. On my side, there's a new episode of the Independent Living podcast that I dropped on the Music Entrepreneur Club channel. It's with Logic's producer, Six. It's the first producer that I've had on the Independent Living podcast. He's putting out his debut album via Too Lost. I think it's coming out in a few weeks. He dropped a single featuring Drum, Guap, and Juicy J. It's really dope. Six is a cool cat, but a very talented producer. So definitely check out that conversation. I love the relationship that he built with Logic and just the mutual respect there. It's not often that you see people just stay so cool throughout, the life of their music career. The other thing I think this week, I'm really excited, and I mentioned it last week about this new creator program that we're trying to invest in and develop this new crop of talent in the YouTube space. We're going to be creating more content. The content's going to go on Ja's channel. And we're just trying to figure out, like, with these new creators that we're working with, like how we split things on the back end, how things work, how we meet weekly, like how we're going to develop content. So I'm super excited about that, because it's really hard. And this actually goes into the first topic, like just to kind of make the group dynamic work. Everybody, because there's a cloud of skepticism that just hovers over the music industry. Everybody's always skeptical of, like, okay, is this person doing me wrong, or am I getting enough? Or why is that person getting that? There's just so many questions around, when you're trying to build a healthy group dynamic, that unfortunately we never see things that could be great come to fruition, because the group dynamic just doesn't work, whether it's ego, money, whatever it is. There could have been so many great and amazing things happen if people were able to, just kind of work together a little better. But the first clip, Payne, if you want to cue it up, this is RZA talking about the Wu Tang and how they tour, how they kind of split, how he looks at compensation with a solo performance versus a group performance.
Should I break down the topics we're going to hit this week or no?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We can talk about the other topics we're gonna. I don't know how many we're gonna be able to hit, since we probably have to cut it short today. But yeah,
I think we may be able to hit all 4 of these. So there's a handful of topics that we have today. We are going to talk about the RZA and Wu Tang, how they break down their money, as Dame says. There's a topic that I find really funny. Are gangsters what are missing from the music business? I think yes. We're going to hit on Will Packer. Shout out to Will Packer. He's doing a lot of really cool stuff in the movie business, but lives in Atlanta, hubs his company in Atlanta. And then L.A. Reid is exposing the industry for a lack of black labels. So should be a nice conversation. It'll be a shorter episode, but I think these are really good topics.
Yes, ma'am. All right, let's hear what RZA has to say about touring with Wu Tang.
Everyone can measure their own equations as they go out to face the world alone. Mm-hmm. And see their value. Yeah. And then if they come back to Wu and that value is at least that or better, mm-hmm. you can measure. If that value is less,
right, then you have a problem.
You got to have a problem, yeah. Right? So I just use a simple term. If I'm making $1 mm-hmm. by myself, and then I go with the Wu and I make $1.25, I'm not even $1.05, right. but $1.05 might not move me,
right? Because when you're on your own, it's your rider, it's your
$1.10 might not move me.
Sure.
$1.25, let's move, baby.
Sure.
Let's, and I get to see my brothers.
Yeah, of course. We have a party. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this is the question that I want to pose to you guys. Obviously RZA, part of or founder of legendary Wu Tang. He's talking of every Wu Tang member kind of does their thing individually. And then they come together as a group. Obviously there's more demand. In my opinion, there's probably a lot more demand as a group than any one individual. Is that the right way to look at it? Is is if you were a part of Wu Tang, and he basically was saying, I know how much I make by myself. Let's just say it's $1, right? I have to make at least that plus a little more for it to make sense for me to tour with Wu Tang. From your perspective, is that the way he should look at it?
Personally, I think because he's a legacy artist, yes. I feel like if it's not worth his time, effort, and energy, like more worth his time, effort, and energy to go out, and that's the trade-off he's willing to make. Like Andre 3000 doesn't want to tour. So even though he's getting paid significantly more now to tour with Big Boy and they have insane offers, he's like, man, love y'all. I just don't want to be on the road. But with the RZA, he's saying the cost for me to be on the road with my brothers is a little bit more than what I would make on my own. So I think that's great. I think when you're building something and you're creating more momentum, you're creating a cooperative, a group that will ultimately help you last longer, especially if you're in the industry and you have a little bit of success. I think diluting for the sake of expansion is actually really, really intelligent. So I think about like Black Hippie or just like other super groups that have been formed. Like Kendrick and Black Hippie is not getting paid as Kendrick solo. Obviously, Black Hippie is not an exactly great because they don't perform anymore, really, aside from the pop out. They did something, but that was Kendrick's show. But when they were recording music, when they were going out and doing a couple of pop out dates, they still weren't commanding more than maybe what Kendrick would get solo, right? Like by himself. So, but what they were doing was building momentum around the group so that there could be longevity, there could be a spotlight on the bigger picture, and then hopefully help prolong each of their personal journeys, but also the group. So I think it depends on where you are in your journey and what you're doing. Like as a solo entrepreneur, I only have so much capacity, willpower, and desire. But when I partner with Brandon, it's a whole different dynamic. When I partner with Brandon and Lauren, which is what we're doing in Austin for Where Y'all At Though, we're now moving like not even triple as fast. There's exponential growth because there's 3 people. Even though there are deficits in different places and you have to slow down because there are more people and you have to make certain concessions. If you're consistent about talking about these things and opening up yourself to being part of a group, you can go farther for way longer. It'll just be a little bit slower. And so there's like the saying, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go together. And I believe that in every aspect of cooperative and collective growth, as long as everybody's on the same page. So it depends on where you're at, though. So with RZA, I think that he's in a place in his career where he can demand that. Same like the group can demand a certain level of respect. In the next part of the video, he talks about that. Like we can collectively ask for more because of where our demand sits. So I think you have to evaluate realistically where you are, but I think it's also very, very, very okay to sacrifice. I think Key Henderson talks about that. Like even as a music executive, she can demand a lot and command a lot, but she's willing to make a bunch of concessions to say like, I want to work with these people. I want to learn. It's not necessarily about the money, but it's about what I'm getting from it, like in the long run.
Well, and I think it depends on, sacrificing your energy and your time even more than the money. I think that's something that a lot of people don't gather from these conversations because it's more just implied. Like it's implied to me that RZA has a bunch of opportunities wherever he chooses to be physically present. And that changes things for better or worse. I mean, I'm thinking about when I was touring, when I first was really touring, and it was touring, like couch surfing touring, or being in a tour bus in a little bunk bed for 12 hours a day type touring, where it's grueling. It's not glamorous. And one of the artists I was touring with consistently, and we're fighting with promoters at the end of the night over 300 guarantees or whatever it is and trying to sell merch to make up the difference. He started a business. This was around the time that I started selling beats online. And so now when we talk, he's making way more money off of the business he started than we would have touring. I'm making way more money selling beats and working on music production projects here at home in my studio than I would make touring. And so in order for us to hit the road again, things would have to be a little different, or we would change something about it. We would do smaller runs, or we would route the touring more strategically, or we would, I think, all the above, and maybe ask for higher guarantees, something like that, where otherwise, it doesn't make financial sense. But then there are these other elements of touring, like supporting an album, where you think, all right, well, if we tour off this album, then there are other benefits that come with it that aren't just the immediate financial payout. Like maybe we don't make money off the tour when we get home. We've actually ended up losing a few $1,000s because we were away from our respective businesses, the ones that help us really, like the bottom of the financial, the revenue model pyramid, sorry, what makes the bulk of our income. But within the next couple months, within the next year, we were so strategic with that tour that we sacrificed temporary money for long-term growth. But sometimes that's going to happen, but it's rare. Usually you're taking a risk.
Yeah. So putting aside, whether people want to tour or the relationship that he had, it doesn't sound like the relationship. There's often been stories about the guys don't get along as well anymore. Maybe they never did, because it's funny, even in that clip, he goes, and I get to see my brother. If it was a bonus to see your brothers, you might even take less, right? It was if I loved touring, I would take 90 cents on the dollar. If I loved touring with these guys, I would take 90 cents on the dollar. But putting stuff like that aside, I don't think that he's looking at this correctly, especially with the Wu Tang, because there's more interest obviously in seeing the Wu Tang perform together, right? There's going to be a lot more people, and to me, that is what drives individual interest. Should they still be? And I know they continue to release music. So to me, I thought it was dope, even in the Funk Volume days, where we knew we weren't going to tour every year as Funk Volume, but that's a different experience that hopefully creates demand for the individual, right? So even if it was the exact same, or you took a little less, so say you got 90 cents on it, I still think it makes sense to tour as a group, tell that story, have your moments, create demand for you as an individual, and then these guys are 50 years old now, so this might not apply because they just might not like being on the road like that. So I get it. But as a younger artist kind of hearing this, I wish that they take other things into consideration when you have a group dynamic that's working. Because I think you got to continue to feed that, because that's the main thing. That's what most people know. So I think there should be a continued investment into that brand so people can continue to eat off that as individuals as well. Because it's going to be very difficult for everybody to get the $1.25 that he's talking about, right? You're going to be able to, unless they have a manager or somebody that can build on additional revenue streams. Is there a documentary we can put together? Can we stream this on Amazon? If there's that kind of stuff that we can add to it, because, let's just say Method Man does, I don't know, 1,000 cap rooms at this point. For everybody to collectively, they would have to do 10, 20,000. I don't know what the Wu Tang, I don't know what the numbers are or what they can demand these days, but it's going to be very hard for everybody to get that $1.25 unless there's a bunch of other revenue streams that they tack on, in my opinion.
There's no way. It's especially because this is their final tour. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's the first, I think, full-fledged tour. If I'm not mistaken, they've done a couple pop-up dates, but it's their first full-fledged tour since their documentary dropped on Hulu, and since they had an award-winning the remaster drop. And then, they were doing all these pop-ups and branding, and then their branding and marketing team won an award at the Busy Awards last year for independent music marketing and how dynamic. So I feel like they're maybe one of the most exceptional people to be able to say, no, actually they can demand $1.50 and you're just going to pay it even if you don't have the bread, because you want to be a part of the opportunity to say that we carried one of the final dates in New York, in LA, in Chicago, in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, of one of the most iconic hip hop groups to ever exist and to set the pace. So I think, like, honestly, this is one of the places that there's actually a huge exception, and he can speak like this because of who they are, but honestly because of, this is like if Lauryn Hill and the Fugees announced a final tour, which is what I'm hoping they do, because I heard will.i.am are like doing commercials again, but it's just like there's such a level of respect and awe where people are like, whatever y'all do, we'll pay the price. Do you know what I'm saying? And so, not to say to abuse that, but I actually feel like he's one of the few people who can be like, and then like, yeah, even though Meth is not out doing huge shows, he's podcasting, he's guesting in like food shows, he's invested in all these other things. So it's like, he may not be able to fill out a room, but he may not even care to fill out a room. It could just be cool for him to pop up for the next 10 years here and there on people's sets and to remind people that he's a great.
Yeah. So you're saying that they for sure can get the $1.20, like everybody can get the $1.25. So
for Wu Tang, yes.
So I just want people to hopefully kind of have just look at this more ways than just either whether you're getting the $1 or $1.25, because there's so much more value that can be extracted from this tour from a PR standpoint. There's a lot of that. Wu Tang actually has a lot of young fans because of streaming. Streaming has given younger fans access to music, from every time. But, there are a lot of fans. My little cousin is a Wu Tang fan. It was super random to find that out. So I just think that people should look at it in more ways and see how they might not be putting the dollar in their pocket today, but it's an investment, obviously, in the overall brand, but it benefits everybody individually. The other thing when you're negotiating with groups, and I did this last night to kind of kick off the call for the creator program that we're putting together, have it be a continuous conversation. Just because, we set the splits at, a certain percentage, and I told them, like, look, this is a new program. We're setting these splits, but let's look at it every month. Like, I'm down to look at it every month just to see how things are tracking. I want to make sure things are cool, because at the end of the day, we're all going to win if this is successful. I don't want anybody getting upset. If you have any issue, any problem, let's talk about it right away. So just the communication is key. The communication is key, and just have it be a continuous conversation. Set dates, put it in your calendar to revisit the conversation around compensation, whether it's tours, albums, whatever it is, so that you can actually get the stuff done and everybody actually benefit from it. But let's get to the next topic, because I know we're trying to knock out 4.
I still love him. He made plenty of other beats that was hot. But Shy Money didn't make Wangsta. Another producer made Wangsta.
Oh, Shy Money rob a nigga for they beat.
Yeah. The nigga.
So this is one of those stories. Everyone kind of knows this story about a producer by the name of Jay Praise, who actually made the beat for Wangsta, which was 50 Cent's first hit single ever. And it ended up on a bunch of albums, including the 8 Mile soundtrack and Get Rich or Die Trying as a bonus track. Someone said in a comment, the producer didn't get jerked, something about he didn't want to sign the unit. I honestly don't know what the actual facts were about that arrangement.
It happened to me one time.
This slide, there are 2 more slides. They're all very short. This one is near and dear to my heart. I'll explain why.
being transparent, I was working under DJ Mustard at some point in my career, early in my career, and I did a record and I gave it to Mustard. Me and Mustard ended up not working with each other anymore, but he went and reproduced the record and it was a sample. So it was able for him to take my idea and hook and kind of like sell it to Meek Mill, which turned into Whatever You Need featuring Chris Brown and Ty Dolla $ign. But I didn't have no leverage at the time, and I'm assuming that Tiffany probably felt like she didn't have leverage in those situations, but I continued to work hard and I'll never forget it. Like we at the ASCAP Awards and like I win for Meek Mill Dangerous with Meek, and they like, Meek, come back up here again. Whatever you need, we got to give you this one. I'm like, but at that point I had the leverage, so I just called Rock Nation like, yo, can I get my publishing? Can I get this? We ended up working it out.
So that's interesting to me, because if I just switch the names around and instead of Mustard stealing a beat from Hitmaker and put Hitmaker stealing a beat from DJ Pain 1, it's damn near the same story minus winning the Grammy. You know, I don't want to relive that story or relitigate anything. It happened. This was many, many years ago. I was very angry at the time. Now, not really. I would probably work with Hitmaker again, if I'm being honest, just because why hold on to grudges and what do they say? Cut off your nose to spite your face.
I don't know. If people steal from me, I'm not working with them again.
So Payne, do you look at it differently because, you know, you feel like to some extent it's kind of just victim of the culture? Like it happened to him. It's kind of just, it's just kind of a practice that's passed down, or you're just more mature now. It's water under the bridge. Like, why? Look at it.
It's more water under the bridge. My thing is, all right, rob me. You can do whatever you want. I'm not a moron, you know. So if I work with someone that steals from me, it gets handled. That's what I think was funny about Hitmaker telling the story about Mustard, what Mustard did. And then later on, when he had leverage, he went over Mustard's head to Rock Nation to get everything handled, which is exactly what I did when he took my beat. And he was mad at me. He sent me a long email being mad that I went over his head to Republic Records when he did the same things. That's why. So it's kind of funny. And I think you're right, Dame. It does point to a cycle of abuse. But in his case, I'm pretty sure he did that to me before he was working under Mustard. I don't think it was like Mustard did it to him and then he did it to me. It was like he did it to me and then Mustard did it to him. And I don't sit back and say, oh, well, that's karma, because I don't personally believe in karma. I think karma is a reflection of our own energy. So karma is more of a self-imposed thing, not something that the universe hits you with. And I don't even think it was karma, because look at Hitmaker. He's one of the most successful A&Rs out there, at least of the last 5-10 years in the hip hop and urban pop space.
Just to make things clear for the people listening. So when you say he stole your beat, did he replay a beat that you sent him, or he took the actual beat and put his name on it?
The latter. He took the actual beat, put his name on it, negotiated with a label, and assigned all of the ownership to himself. Signed a producer declaration where my name wasn't anywhere on it. And then, again, I don't want to get super deep into the story, but that's what happened. And then my management had contacts at the label that released the song. And rather than him just say, all right, cool, you got me, let's move on, he was mad about it and we never spoke again.
So his name should be like Hit Stealer, basically, is what you're saying.
Well, hit taker. We could do
Hit taker.
We could make it a little, but you know, it's one of those things where like he's working with a lot of producers that I like, and I'm happy for the opportunities he's giving them. It's just, I think I could have handled that situation more strategically when I caught him doing what he was doing. I just was sort of in blackout mode then, where, you know, I was coming off a lot of situations where people were stealing from me, and it all stemmed from working with one. No, I can't even blame Sarah J for the stuff that happened with Two Pistols. So no, but there were just a lot of situations that put me in fight or flight mode. So I was choosing fight every time and just wanting to fight everybody. And that's it's human, but it's not great. This is what's funny about it. It sounds like even when the stuff went down with Mustard, I don't hear him bad mouthing Mustard, but of course he went on to be super successful. They're all super rich. Mustard's probably doing better than him financially, but at that point, who cares? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But compare that to what happened in the clip where Tony Yayo was talking about Jay Praise, and someone made the comment that Jay Praise, who produced Wankster, decided to keep his publishing. So I don't, there are holes in this comment. If this is true, I have a problem with it. He says, Jay Praise didn't get jerked. Shaw Money wanted his publishing if he became a G-Unit producer to get more placements. So I guess, I mean, that sounds right. Maybe like you sign a deal and they take a cut. The producer decided to keep his publishing, which earned him at least $1 million or more, but was cut from being an in-house producer. I always felt he made the right choice. That producer went on to enlist the same lawyer that successfully sued Robin Thicke and Pharrell and their labels over the Blurred Lines song on behalf of the Marvin Gaye estate. It was because Cat Dahlia released a song called Gangsta that interpolated not just his melody, but also 50 Cent's lyrics. I don't know too much about that case. I'm going to do more research. I just found that out within the last 5 minutes after reading this comment. So I'll give you an update if I find anything. But I know the song, and it is very clearly directly inspired from that track. So I have my opinions. I feel like if you're a producer and you have this single if I had produced 50 Cent's first hit and then had an opportunity to sign to G-Unit as an in-house producer for that whole, decades-long run where every artist was dropping hit after hit, and I said no because of the publishing split. Look, it's a gamble because maybe Wanks is the only hit single you ever produce, and you take a 50% cut on the underlying composition, and so you could have made $1 million and you make $500,000 and the rest goes to Sha Money. But think about all the other opportunities. But maybe those other opportunities, they're all theoretical. So maybe you don't get any more hit songs with G-Unit. I just think, I don't know. What would you do in that case?
I don't know if there's any, like you said, it is a risk that you take. I don't think you can give just blanket advice. I don't know Sha Money. I haven't heard the best things. It just depends on.
I love Sha Money, by the way. I had great experiences with him.
But it just depends on the relationship that you have. I would definitely get a lawyer involved. I would talk with people that maybe are familiar with people that are a part of the negotiation, and just see how comfortable you feel in that environment. It's hard to just give anybody advice from a podcast and you just say, okay, I'm going to apply that to my situation. There's just so many different variables. At the end of the day, that's what education is so important. But then, it might just be gut, what's your gut telling you at that point. Once you equip yourself with the information, you have the conversations. At the end of that, what is it your gut telling you? What's your heart telling you? And just kind of lean into that.
Yes, I agree with you. Like, listen to your gut. Don't be desperate, but don't be greedy. So I think, like, I have a artist friend who just asked me to negotiate a deal for 2 songs. One is his full song and a way bigger artist wants to cover it. And then another is a song that he had written. And then that artist was like, hey, I really like this verse and the melody for your hook. Can I have this? And so, like, now we're in the course of negotiation. And when they were just emailing him, they were like, hey, we suggest this, this, and this. And he just had this gut feeling. He was like, I don't know enough about this. Let me hit Erinn. And so I just asked him a couple of questions. I was like, okay, so are we talking about masters or are we talking about publishing? And he was like, I actually didn't even think about the master rights. I'm like, yeah, you wrote both songs. Both of them are out. Granted, if you want to be treated as a songwriter on the second one where you just wrote the melody for the hook and the verse, that's cool. But you definitely own the master on the one that is a cover, right? And so then I hit the team. I'm like, hey, so what are we looking at percentages wise for the master? And they're like, oh, hey, can we get on the phone? That was a gut instinct from an artist who doesn't know enough to say, I could make a lot of money off of this. His thought process was just, I want to make sure I do myself right in this opportunity, because moving forward, if this way bigger artist is using my music and I get credited properly, there's a chance that something could come of this. So he wasn't even thinking from a money perspective, but you also can't be so desperate that you're like, I'll give them anything because this could be my big break, because it could be a situation like you just said, where the gentleman was like, nah, I'm going to just keep my publishing, and, and then he missed out on the opportunity to be potentially, I don't know if that's hearsay or true, but to be signed or in-house production. But it led to him being able to hopefully eat for the rest of his life because of the publishing off of that song. So I think follow your gut, but ask people, listen to people, and don't just be like, well, I don't know. I think we should, I think you need to sit in the tension for a little bit, but also don't move too slowly, because sometimes people will get annoyed and you'll miss your opportunity. They're just like, whatever, we don't want it that badly. There's a lot of music in the world. So I'd be intentional. I wouldn't be desperate, but I would be thoughtful. And then I'd be generous. Sometimes when it is a big break, you could say, I'm willing to concede 10% or 5% or 15% for the opportunity, just making sure that everybody's doing good business.
Okay, so then let me ask you this. How do you feel? Because my opinion on this, my stance has changed quite a bit over the years. I used to be hardline against sharing ownership of a song. So that would be writer share, publisher share, whatever, credit even, with anyone that had nothing to do with creating the beat. And now I'm like, if you get the placement for me and you want 5%, 2.5 writer, 2.5 publisher, or even 5 writer, 5 publisher, I'm like, yeah, why not? I mean, you did the work. This wouldn't exist without you. And of course, those numbers can change. And if someone's starting to ask for something crazy like 30% or, and when we say 30%, that probably means more than half of what I'm getting. That's where I start getting uncomfortable. But otherwise, I don't know. I don't have a problem sharing equity with people who weren't creators, but who simply made the opportunity happen nowadays. Whereas, and that goes back to the whole hitmaker thing. Like it wasn't just that I was angry because of the deception and the theft. It was just me not wanting to give up anything. And in that case, everything was taken from me. I wasn't given the opportunity to negotiate, but I was still, I think, reluctant or resistant to any sort of splitting if someone didn't, touch a keyboard or even rearrange a track that I made.
I think the advice that I would just give to anybody is don't make any impulsive decisions.
Yeah.
Don't make any impulsive decisions. Try to extract your emotion from the equation. Obviously educate yourself as much as possible. Try to look at the situation holistically. Don't just look at the opportunity in front of you, but think about how it impacts you long term, both financially, with your reputation, with relationships. So you just don't make any quick decisions. And, you're not going to make every right decision. Like every decision you make is not going to be right. But hopefully you can minimize that going through the process that we just talked about. And if you do make the wrong decision, just don't make sure you just don't make it twice.
Yeah, well, and let me end on this one slide then, because it's Bandplay, who's a producer who's known. He was with PRE, but he also produced Big X the Plug's big hits. Shout out to Bandplay, and he has a similar perspective, not on splitting equity, I don't think, but probably feels the same way, but on beat tags, which is a point of contention for a lot of producers.
Really, I don't really be getting to all that producer talk shit. Niggas be really crybabies that really.
What, like if you give your opinion on something?
Nah, niggas just be on the internet crying and shit, man. Yeah, man, I ain't get my name on this beat. Nah, this whole shit. Like, it be too long be getting into all that shit, bro.
I know there is.
I just make my music and stay out the way. You feel?
I've seen some artists say they will make a producer take their tag off a beat.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, it might not fit. Where it's at. I mean, I don't know.
That's a crazy.
If an artist be like, man, I'd rather not have a tag on that, I'd take it off. So I'm still making the money.
Yeah.
I'm still.
So that goes to what Dame's saying, right? It sounds like he's speaking on producers moving on their emotions, which I understand. I mean, I think we were all there at one time where we're upset. My first big placement, they took my tag right off the beat. They didn't take Drummer Boy's tag off the beats that were on that same album. And so it's very clear to me that it's sometimes the tag doesn't fit, but sometimes the tag is also just a social capital thing where DJ Payne 1 didn't have the social capital Drummer Boy did. And nowadays, a producer on the come up doesn't have the same social capital that Metro or Mustard has. So a rapper's definitely going to keep, if they get a Mustard beat, they want that Mustard tag there. It's like buying a Gucci shirt that isn't the Gucci colors, but you spent that amount on it. You want people to know that you spent this money on this goddamn Gucci shirt and you're poking the belt out so people can see the damn logo. With the rest of us, they're tucking the logos a little bit because they don't perceive it as valuable. And so, hey, if you're paying me $10,000 for a beat and then you say, well, I'm taking the tag off, I still have my equity. I'm still getting paid my advance.
As a producer, I wouldn't complain about that at all. To me, that's the artist's call. Like, to me, that's the artist or label's call of whether the tag's in there or not, unless maybe you get leverage of a Mustard or somebody like that. If that's holding the deal up, you know, you're probably going to have a pretty rough time in the music industry, in my opinion. You know, if I was running Funk Volume still and somebody said, oh, we got to keep the tag, and I was like, oh, we just, you know, I'll ask the artist, do you want to use a beat? If not, we just won't use the song. Like, why? That to me is not something that should ever hold up a deal, in my opinion.
I would ask though. I wouldn't let it hold up a deal, but if they were like, hey, we want to take this off, I'd be like, can we put it at the end, something? Because I feel like there is a level of notoriety that comes, and there's a level of legitimacy. You can tell people till you're blue in the face, but most people don't do the research. So especially if it's something that you feel like you're going to be able to leverage, say maybe you get a La Russell track and he pays you $1,000, or a La Russell placement and he's paying you $1,000, but his song, your tag being widespread could make you a lot more money. And I think I get it, you know?
They ask you to take it out. I'm probably, hey, you know, try to get it on the next one, you know, on somebody else's song. That's the artist's call for sure, in my opinion.
Well, I wonder, I've never seen a contract that makes mention of a tag. And so when you send those stems over, they can take whatever out. That's what you signed for. So I wonder, I'd like to hear a music lawyer's perspective, one that's dealt with producers within the last 5 years, because I feel like tags have become way more acceptable for everybody. Like, I'll hear songs and there will be 10 tags at the beginning because there were 6 loop makers and 4 co-producers, and it's all producers that I've never heard of because they're up and coming. And, you know, these are indie records, but the tags are on them, and the artists clearly don't care because they're leaving the tags on. Maybe they don't even have the stems to the tracks. And, you know, you hear the little kid voice shouting out all the names of the producer, always a little kid voice shouting out the names. And you think, okay, well, if they're, I don't know. I think the fans know what producer tags are. The fans like them too. So are producer agreements now reflecting this new normal? Right, because they weren't 10 years ago.
I don't know.
The OGs are way more in shape musically than the young guys.
Yeah.
Way more. Like, we need like a little bit of Suge Knight energy in the music game. I know that sounds fucking crazy. I know that sounds crazy, but we do.
Mike is missing. I just said the missing. The Gangstas is missing.
Yeah, it's like, because I feel like there's no respect no more. And like, one thing that I do know about Suge Knight is he cared about the music and he made sure everybody did their job.
Erinn seems to agree, so we'll let her kick this off. Like, thoughts?
For sure. And I make no concessions for the violence that my cousin brought into the world due to other issues that he had. But I do believe that, like, people need to be smacked up a little bit. And I'm not even being funny about that. There's a level of respect that used to come with tenure, with acumen, with accolades. And I think that people take that, oh, I'm not a respecter of persons, like everybody's on equal footing. I think to a degree, yeah, everybody's a human. There's a level of respect that just baseline. But I think that when you have like deep reverence, as Nipsey Hussle says, I don't know, there's just a respect that people used to have. I think there was a culture of respect that culturally came from Blackness that was in the hip hop industry. And I think the youth, have been infiltrated by like maybe the predominant culture in America. And it's become this irreverent, I can say what I want, I can do what I want, I can be mediocre and then complain about you not liking it instead of just getting better, or instead of maybe critically analyzing myself and saying like, I'll take it with a grain of salt, but I'm not going to be mad for somebody coming to critique me. And yeah, I just think there was, maybe it was because of fear. And again, I'm not saying that people need to be like physically assaulted and there's these things, but I feel like there's a reverential fear that you have for people when you feel like there's a place of authority that you've given them, not that they've taken, right? Like you're saying, I want to reverence this place that I hold. I don't know. So the more gangsters in hip hop / in entertainment, I kind of feel, because you used to, growing up, it's like you got to check in. Like, I'm big on that. If somebody comes to my city and they don't check in, I feel some type of way, because it's like, you know that there's a level of respect here. And I grew up in that type of culture. Like, if you're checking in with the hood or you're checking in with the elders, I think there's a way that you're saying, I'm humbling myself to the order of operations that comes with this place. And I just think that people don't have that, though, because they don't fear anything. And I think part of that is because gangsters are missing from music now. And I don't know if everybody's going to get this, because I'm not trying to be like explicit, because I feel like what's understood is understood. But I think there's a level of respect that's lacking in a lot of culture, but especially the music game. And I think that if people were actually scared in some ways, that it would be a little bit different.
I hear what he's saying, and I could agree to a certain extent, but I don't think, like, you know, if Suge existed today, you know, it would really change anything. Like, I really don't. I mean, Top ain't no punk. There's a lot of people in the industry that aren't.
Suge and Top, respectfully, are two different things.
But to me, it's just how the internet has developed, how social media has developed, and how the influence of people that just sit in their room and talk. They don't have to leave their room. So what are they scared of? Like, academics is not just going to be walking around LA and it sounds like he doesn't care. So he just pops his shit from his room, you know, wherever he lives. Does he live in Wisconsin or something like that? Does he live in Oh, he lived in Miami? I thought he lived in Wisconsin or something.
I live in Wisconsin.
I thought he might. I thought he was. So I don't really think it's the lack of presence of individuals like Suge Knight. I think it's just how the game has evolved, because, you know, these people just talk reckless on the internet. Like, that's just how it is. People are super disrespectful in the comments on podcasts, and they don't feel like they can ever be touched. And a lot of times it's just they aren't around to be touched because they're making the good living in their little hole. But I do wish that there was more respect. I wish that the quality of music was cared about more. I just don't know how to get back to that in this environment where we're seeing so many songs that aren't that, you know, do well, and so many artists that aren't as polished, like, go viral and make money, you know. So how could we, I don't know how we get back to that.
I guess my question is, we know about the TLC story, right? They went and tore that office up because the label was mistreating them. And there didn't seem to be any legal repercussions for that, were there? Like, it was like they went in, tore that bitch up, and then all of a sudden they were renegotiating their contract with more favorable terms. I'm sure that's just the story we've been given, but it didn't sound like anyone went to prison or jail or anything. I think a more modern day example, it's not in the music business, but a certain Italian gentleman just brought some consequences to somebody that was harming a lot of people. That's a super contentious story, but I'll tell you, after the death of that person, all of a sudden other similar companies started changing their policies, or at very least fucking people over a little less. So is violence effective? You can't tell me it's not, especially when you're a part of the mainstream culture, and that's the whole reason you are in that position. You damn sure can't tell me that if you're a fan of either mainstream party when they're funding wars and armies and militaries and supporting a military industrial complex and supporting the police and supporting the prison industrial complex. That's all violence. Everywhere you look, virtually every consequence is violence. Even getting fired from your job is a form of violence, because if you lose all your money, then you lose your health coverage, you're unhoused, you're in dangerous and vulnerable states, you become a victim. It's all violence. So I don't begrudge you at all, Erinn, for what people might see as glorification of violence. It's not glorification of violence. It's acceptance of the broader context in which we are survivors. And so that's just what it is. It is sad. I think if we replace the word gangsters with consequences, we'd have a similar conversation, because there really seem to be fewer consequences for disrespecting the music business. Even with my story, with getting the beat stolen, there was no consequence there. There were really no consequences in any of those scenarios, and that's sad. But I think another part of it is just that we've got a lot of scabs running around. Everyone is more than willing to take less than the next person. And so, hey, if this producer wants to be treated fairly, all right, fuck them. Here's someone over here that doesn't care. So we'll just bring them in, and now they're happy. This rapper, this promoter doesn't want to pay this rapper. The rapper's upset because they performed and signed a deal and had an agreement. Oh, fuck them. We'll find another rapper. Rappers are thirsty for shows. We'll find another scab. So I think it's deeper than just a respect dynamic between two people. There's a lot going on here.
If you guys don't mind, I'll do just a quick rant of something that's kind of been on my mind. I was going to make a separate video about it. But in this industry, I really value my relationships, and I try to make sure I'm throwing as many lobs as possible. Us three have developed a great relationship. Erinn reaches out to me for things. I reach back out to her for things. She does things for me even when I'm not asking for it. Those are the type of relationships that you want to build. So I'm always trying to look to connect the dots. What I realized, though, and it wasn't just this past week where I realized when I'm helping people, I think it's important that you understand, or that you're sure that the other person's receiving it as help. Sometimes we're doing things for people, and, maybe a year down the line, maybe even a month or a week after, they'll turn back. You're going to look at it like, well, I did this, and they're going to turn back at you and be like, well, I didn't ask you to do that. So take inventory of the people that you assist and help. Relationships are give and take. And it's not always give, take. Sometimes it's give, take. But there has to be some level of reciprocation in the relationship. So today, take inventory of your relationships, because you're probably going to identify some people that have just taken. They've never given back. And just be aware of that going forward, so that you don't sacrifice any more of your energy or spend any more of your energy pouring into someone that is not even thinking about you at all, like ever. So that's just my quick rant. I'm sure people can relate to that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a tough dynamic too, because a lot of people, it's valid. I think both opinions are valid. Like if someone does something for you and you don't ask, and then you try to treat that as a favor later on, then that's a little problematic. And I've been in those situations too, and it just comes down to communication.
My thing is, if you didn't ask for it, but it did benefit you, it's a favor. I think people will throw that back up in your face and like, well, I didn't ask for it, but did it benefit you? Did you see a real world benefit? And sometimes, or could you have seen the potential in that? But I mean, I won't belabor this again, but this is why I got out of artist management. Cause it's like, why am I explaining? This is not even a favor, but like I'm giving above and beyond. Why am I explaining this to you? Like, yeah, no. And I'm careful about who I do favors for, cause I'm super generous and I'm naturally looking to highlight other people. And I realized it was just a diminishing return because it made me angry. I'm now resenting people that I was trying to help, not because I didn't want to give the favor, because I was looking for something in return, but because they refused to see any type of reciprocity in the relationship because they just expected me to give and they to take. So yeah.
Well, but that's a contract. You know, you manage an artist. There's a contract. You do this, they do this, and you get your percentage. And then what's crazy in the case of management is that the artist will just stop doing anything and want to give you less than what you agreed on. And then you're like, no, this was an actual contract that we pre-agreed to sign. And now I'm doing exactly what I said I would do and committed to doing. And you're upset. So I think it's different than just, you know, some random person being like, oh, yeah, I can put you in touch with so-and-so. And then a year later, you're like, hey, I need you to do me a favor because I put you in touch with so-and-so. It's like, yeah, but you offered that. So it's a little more gray area. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying.
So the I can't go into details, but the situation that happened to me recently, it wasn't an expectation that this person do something for me in the future. It was, don't do anything that negatively impacts what I got going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, bro, I'm trying to throw you lobs here and you're blocking it. Like you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, you didn't ask for the lob. Okay. But don't come back and steal the ball from me on the other end. Like, just don't take the lob. Like, so it wasn't an expectation that I didn't like go back to this person and be like, oh, because I did this, now you have to do this. It was like Cat did something that was negatively affecting what I got going on. So it's like, I'm over here trying to help what you have going on. You're trying to hurt what I have going on. So anyway, we can wrap it up. Payne, you want to close it out?
Yes, sir. Appreciate you tuning in to another episode. We thank you so much for supporting the new podcast channel. And we also thank you for supporting us by supporting your own music career, getting free music distribution for 3 months. Go to twolost.com, use the code MEC, get all your music up on all the platforms, all the premium streaming platforms, build a fan base. The music is serving nobody, not the fans, not you, not anybody, if it's just sitting on a hard drive unreleased. We will catch you on the next episode. I guess we're going to be touching on the L.A. Reid conversation. Then maybe I'll have an update on what I found about that producer conversation. Until then, peace.
Peace.